Hazeldan, reveal what this masterpiece of a comic book is.
It's this.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
You're about to see some of the most valuable comics according to Overstreet, the rarest according to CGC, and some bizarre facts you never knew. How much can Wolverine and the Vision bench press? You'll find out here. 3 channels, 5 rounds, 15 books. Let's start with the Silver Age Grails. I'll kick it off. This is Amazing Spider-Man #1 from 1963. It's Spider-Man's second appearance and his first in his own title. What's kind of unusual that most people don't know is that Marvel wasn't sure that Spider-Man was going to be a success. So what did they do? They had a crossover with the Fantastic Four, and I'll pass the torch to my friends Hazeldan.
Our Silver Age Grail has always been the Hulk #1. I know the Amazing Fantasy 15 is most people's, and we do love that book as well. But for us, there's something about the Hulk that was just special to us. This is actually the first book that we picked up at our first convention. First book we got graded. It's a fantastic cover. Is he man? Is he monster? Is he both?
Another cool thing about this is that he started off gray, but by issue #2, they changed the lovable green Hulk that we know today because of the ink problems. So the gray went and which is really inconsistent from page to page. So they changed it to green, and that's how we know him today, and that's why they changed it.
And now from Comic Books Galore, we have Alex.
For my Silver Age Grail, Silver Age Superhero Grail, we've gone with Tales of Suspense issue #39, which was published in March of 1963, written by Stan Lee and Larry Lieber, Lee's brother. And you've got Gene Colan, Don Heck, Steve Ditko, and Jack Kirby on the artwork. Some pretty big names in Marvel. And the significance behind this issue is that it's the first appearance of Iron Man, Tony Stark. So a couple of interesting facts about this issue. The first of which I'm certain has been mentioned on Keston's channel is that the quotation marks right here around the Iron Man are often incomplete due to a manufacturing issue, the miscuts. Now, this particular example is missing half of the closed quote, so it's not quite an ideal copy, but still managed to achieve a semi-closed quote. The second interesting tidbit is that Don Heck, one of the cover artists of the issue, modeled Tony Stark's looks after the famous 1930s Hollywood actor Errol Flynn. Interestingly, Flynn, who was most famous for portraying the role of Robin Hood, was known for his charisma and playboy lifestyle, much akin to Tony Stark's character. And then lastly, what makes this copy of Tales of Suspense #39 particularly special is that it is also signed by one of the co-creators of Iron Man and Stan Lee. We've got that signature right down there.
You may have seen that same book on my channel, but mine was a lowly 3.0, so you just got a big upgrade there. Well, now we're into ultra rare golden age books. And let me tell you, I am the most excited about this because I heard from Hazeldan, they've been teasing me. They said, Keston, you got a rare golden age book that I'm going to enjoy. And if y'all know me, I'm a rarity freak. But let me take a guess and let Alex take a guess as to what this might be.
If I had to guess, I'd probably say it had something to do with Archie, something like that. I know that there are huge Archie fans, and it's probably some crazy key that has to do with Archie.
I was thinking, well, if it's a huge grail that's pretty rare, maybe it's like All American Comics #16, which is the first Green Lantern. Really tough book to get, much tougher than the other DC grails. Another DC grail that's also tough is Adventure Comics #40, which is the first Sandman, Golden Age Sandman. And third, there's a crazy rare book, one of the rarest in the Golden Age, and it's Marvel Mystery Comics No Number, and it's the 132 pager. That one, there's I think 9 on census, something like that. And I saw that come out to Heritage recently, and I put a bid on it, didn't get it. And I'll be so ticked off if that's Hazeldan who got that book. Hazeldan, reveal what this masterpiece of a comic book is.
Those are great guesses. Yeah, it sounds like, Alex, it, so that's a fantastic guess. Keston, those are also great guesses. Rare. Some of those might be a little bit more rare than what we got, but it's still pretty darn rare. It's this.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So it is the first appearance of the Spectre. It is a fantastic cover by Bernard Bailey. It's kind of rare sometimes to have the character's first appearance on the cover. This actually meets that.
This is a book that I have been in love with since I was 10 years old. It caught my eye, it caught my attention. There's 20 unrestored, 29 restored. Yeah, this is definitely one of the highlights of our collection now for sure.
All right, so this book is about as rare, and so you're probably familiar with the first series that ever came out from Marvel. It was Marvel Comics, and then the second issue was Marvel Mystery, but they're all part of the same run. Yeah. The second title from Marvel is this series. This is Daring Mystery Comics #1, and this came out in, it'll say January 1940, but actually hit the newsstands a couple months earlier, so actually in 1939. It is Alex Schomburg's first cover that he ever did. One thing that I like about this cover is that flame that is like around that bullet. I just love the way he draws that. And the final piece is, if you want a high-grade copy of this book, good luck. There are only a couple dozen Blue Label books. There's a 9.4 that's the Denver pedigree. There's this one, 9.2, that's Windy City. And then there's no books until you get down to a 7.0. So really, really tough book, defined in gray. So with that, let me go to Alex. Alex, what you got?
So for my ultra rare Golden Age book, I've chosen Weird Mysteries issue #5 from June of 1953. And for those who might not be aware, this is one of the most iconic and coveted covers in all of pre-code horror comics history. We've got some incredibly striking Bernard Bailey cover art depicting someone removing a brain from a hominin-looking being, conducting some type of deranged science experiment. Now, one of the reasons I chose this book is that it is truly a rarity. It doesn't come up for auction that often, and when it does, it's rare. It's offered in a grade this high, like a 5.5 or higher. In fact, there are only 4 copies, including this one, in this grade. 11 graded higher, and 72 copies total on the CGC census. Weird Mysteries 5 is also ranked #2 on the list of the top 50 pre-code horror comics by CBSI.com. And something that makes this particular example of Weird Mysteries #5 truly special is that you may have noticed it's a northward pedigree, but aside from that, it has some attached provenance, which is noted on the label. That is, this particular book was from the collection of Nicolas Cage. And being a big Cage fan, I had to grab this copy. So this is really an awesome book.
That is so cool.
Round of applause. Like that's one of the best rounds of comic book showings you'll ever see anywhere. I'm going to go from ultra rare Golden Age to favorite cover. So Alex, what's your favorite cover?
All right, so my favorite comic book cover in my collection to date is Batman issue #251 with a classic Joker cover created by none other than the late and great Neil Adams. This cover was named one of the top 5 Joker covers of all time. What is truly pivotal about this particular issue is that it brought the Joker character back to his violent and maniacal roots. Instead of the Joker often being portrayed as a goofball, he is now written as a murderous psychopath. And this particular copy, what makes it also special is that I had the privilege of meeting Neil Adams, who actually signed this copy for me. So it's really nice.
And this is Gunsmoke #3. Let me tell you, if you are into good art and marksmanship, this will probably be your favorite. And here's why. So you see Gunsmoke, he's got 2 guns in his hand. In one, he is shooting a pistol out of another man's hand. And with the other gun, he is shooting the fuse off of the TNT. So you can't do much better than this.
We have King Size Annual Rebel 1.
Cover done by Jim Stranko, who is a legend. He actually accepted the assignment for this cover like from one day, and it was due the next morning. So it was a very short window. The face here is not drawn by Stranko. It was actually redrawn by Marie Severn. Marvel thought that the Hulk looked a little too ghastly the way Stranko drew it, with the beads of sweat and the veins and a little bit more of the grimace. We actually got this signed by Stranko at one of the conventions, and he's quite a character.
Yeah. I met Jim Stranko twice, and he's punched me both times. So we got a kick at him, and I told him, I was like, the first time he was like, you, and he kind of hit me in the arm. And I told him about that story, and he got up, like, you know, and he goes, well, you, and he goes like that again, and like, he punched me again, and everybody's like, oh, he got punched by Steranko and lived. Twice, he got punched by Jim Steranko twice and lived to tell. This is really funny, and he's just a great guy, and one of our best experiences ever at Comic-Con.
All right, our next round is Sci-Fi, and this particular cover gives me a lot of energy. Now, why? It's because we have some of these Tesla coils here, and so you can see the electricity that's going back and forth. We have Tara, who's right in the middle of electricity. It's one of those types of covers that I don't know if y'all have experienced this or not, but like at first you're like, that cover's okay, and the more you look at it, the more you appreciate it.
We have this classic Steve Ditko cover. It's from 1954, I believe. Space Adventures number 10. He conveys anxiety and fear and stress so well. Like, he's like the master of that. You know, just the sheer dread on these people's faces that they're getting scooped up by these menacing robots. Iconic classic cover by Ditko.
For my science fiction book, I had to go with what I feel is a gorgeous looking airbrush cover on Wonder Comics issue number 50, or 15 rather. This is printed in December of 1947. And if it wasn't already obvious from the very stylized artwork, this is an Alex Schomburg cover. The significance behind this book is that it's the origin and first appearance of Tara. Tara is a character who discovers and attempts to reveal corruption within the government and is unjustly branded a space pirate and is subsequently banished from Earth. This is just a very beautiful cover, and I have a quote from Stan Lee, if I may quote him just for a minute, because I feel that Schomburg was truly a master of his craft. Lee said Alex Schomburg was to comic books what Norman Rockwell was to the Saturday Evening Post. When it came to illustrating covers, there is simply no one else in Alex's league.
Now we're up to round 5, and this is the wild card. We could pick up any book for kind of any reason, although we have a slight bit toward the sentimental. To lead us off in this category, Hazeldan.
This is actually the book that got me into comics. When we had just gotten married, his dad, I guess, got tired of storing all his comics. He dropped them off at our house and said, here you go. His comics had been in storage for a long time. Some of the bags were dingy. I didn't know anything about comics, but I just wanted to just rebag and board everything for him. Just changing the bags, there's something kind of magical about that, where the books just kind of came to life. This cover in particular stood out to me, and I remember as soon as he came home,
she goes like
I said,
are these books real? Are these real? And I go, oh yeah, they're real. And so it's special to us because it got my wife, and you know, you see that cover when you're young and you fall in love with comics. This is that for her. And if it wasn't for her going through that collection and seeing some of that stuff, I don't know that we'd be doing this today together, to be honest with you.
So on the more sentimental side of things, this was my first Golden Age purchase, so you could say it was my gateway to Golden Age collecting. The wild card I've chosen is Superman issue number 30, printed in 1944. The significance of this issue is that it's the origin and first appearance of Mr. Mixia Spidlik. There's also something else special about this issue as well. According to an article published by CBR.com, Leo Nowak, an artist who was working for DC at the time, had mistakenly depicted Superman flying in a few panels of Superman issue number 10, which predates this book. Nowak wasn't aware that Superman didn't possess those powers and drew him in a few panels mistakenly flying. That mistake was subsequently corrected in the following issues. Superman isn't depicted as flying until this issue number 30. So while it's widely accepted that Superman issue number 10 is the first flight concept in a comic book, that was actually a creative mistake, and it isn't actually until issue number 30 that Superman is unequivocally seen flying in this issue.
It is Marvel Universe number 14. This was a series that came out from Marvel that basically gave these in-depth profiles of every character and sometimes locations that were around. And I've always been a data nerd. And then it also would list like the powers and the strength of different characters. So in this particular issue, which covers, let's see, Unicorn to Wolverine, it listed the bench press of the Vision as being 50 tons, which, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of weight. They've also got, you can see Wolverine's here. They list his bench press as well. And I'm actually going to throw this back to you. What is your guess as to what Wolverine can bench press?
I'm going to go with 1 ton. No, is that a bit? That's a lot. Isn't it?
Just a bit.
That's a lot. Maybe
But-
800 pounds.
Probably go with something like 500 pounds.
See, these folks are unusual and they're really nerdy because they might know this piece, which at the time of reading this, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So Wolverine's listed as 5'3". He's 195 pounds, and his strength level, Wolverine possesses the normal human strength of a man of his physical age, height, and build who engages in intensive regular exercise. So a lot of folks would think he's super strong, can bench a few tons, but probably that like 500 to 800 pound range, that's sort of the maximum of what a human being could bench press. And that's sort of where he is. Now, though, when I watch the movies and I watch what he does in the comic books, I'm like, there's no human being on Earth who could do the things that he does. So I think that's a little bit like off in terms of how he's depicted. You know, hey, if I just exercise a little bit more, maybe have some adamantium, you know, maybe I can do the same things Wolverine can do.
I'm going to call nonsense on him weighing 195 pounds, too. So his arm weighs 195 pounds. My guess is he weighs about a ton. He's got to weigh a ton. I don't know how he walks around if he can't lift more than a ton. Yeah.
In the Origins of Wolverine movie, you see him sitting down on that Harley Davidson, and it just lowers like 4 or 5 inches down to get the idea of how much he weighs.
2 quick things before you leave. If you enjoyed these amazing comic books, please leave a comment and let us know what your favorite books were. Second, Hazeldan has an amazing channel. Go check them out. In fact, this video features some of the finest comic books you will ever see on YouTube. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and hope to see you around real soon.